About Mizoram, people of Mizoram. Perching on the high hills of northeastern corner, Mizoram is a storehouse of natural beauty. With its endless variety of landscape, hilly terrains, meandering streams, deep gorges, rich wealth of flora and fauna. Flanked by Bangladesh on the west and Myanmar on the east and south, Mizoram occupies an important strategic position. Having a long international boundary of 722 kilometers, world renowned for their hospitality, Mizos are a close knit society with no class distinction and no discrimination on grounds of sex. The entire society is knitted together by a peculiar code of ethics, Tuam Naina, an untranslatable term meaning on part of everyone to be hospitable, kind, unselfish, and helpful to others. Mizoram is a mountainous region which became 23rd state of the Union in February 1987. It was one of the districts of Assam till 1972 when it became the Union territory. Sandwiched between Myanmar in the east and south and Bangladesh in the west, Mizoram occupies an area of great strategic importance. In the northeastern corner of India, it has a total 630 miles boundary with Myanmar and Bangladesh. Mizoram has a vast, variegated hilly terrain in eastern part of India. The hills are steep and are separated by rivers which flow either to the north or the south, creating deep gorges between the hill ranges. The average height of the hills is about 900 meters. The highest peak in Mizoram is Phui Blue Mountain with a height of 2210 meters. Mizoram has a pleasant climate. It is generally cool in summer and not very cold in winter. During winter, the temperatures vary from 11 to 21 degrees Celsius, and in summer, it varies between 20 to 29 degrees Celsius. The entire area is under the direct influence of monsoon. It rains heavily from May to September, and average rainfall in Aizawl is 208 centimeter. Winter in Mizoram is wonderfully blue, and in the enchanting view of wide stretches of a vast lake of cloud, Mizoram has great natural beauty, endless variety of landscape, and is very rich in flora and fauna. Almost all kinds of tropical trees and plants thrive in Mizoram. The hills are marvelously green. The upper part of the hills are predictably cool during the summer, while the lower reaches are relatively warm and humid. Storms break out during March-April just before or around the summer. The maximum average temperature in the summer is 30 degrees Celsius, while in the winter the minimum average temperature is around 11 degrees Celsius. The 4 months between November and February are winter in Mizoram, which is followed by the spring. The storms come in the middle of April to herald the beginning of the summer. The mercury starts rising and the hills come under the cover of the haze. 3 months from June to August are known as the rainy season. The climate at its moderate best in the two autumnal months, September and October, when the temperature moves between 19 to 24 degrees Celsius. Taken all in all, the Mizoram is made up of wooded hills, swift flowing rivers, quicksilver streams, and still lakes. The combination of all this is a rarity, and it is the combination of these physical features that has given Mizoram its own charm and fascination. Historians believe that Mizos are a part of Great Wave of the Mongolian race spilling into the eastern and southern India centuries ago. Their sojourn in the western Burma, into which they eventually around 7th century, is estimated to last around 2 centuries. They came under the influence of British missionaries in the 9th century, and now most of the Mizos are Christians. One of the beneficial results of missionary activities was the spread of education. The missionaries introduced Roman script for the Mizo language and formal education. Cumulative result is high percentage of 95% as per National Sample Survey 97-98, which is considered to be the highest in India. Mizo area distinct community. Mizo's area, distinct community and social unit was the village. Mizo's area, distinct community and the social unit was the village. Around it revolved the life of a Mizo. Mizo village is usually set on top of a hill with the chief's house at the center and the bachelor's dormitory called Zwolbuk prominently. In a way, the focal point in the village was Zwolbuk, where all young bachelors of the village slept. Zwolbuk was the training ground and indeed the cradle wherein the Mizo youth was shared into the responsibility young adult member of the society. The fabric of the social life in the Mizo society has undergone tremendous changes over the years. Before the British moved into the hills, for all practical purposes, the village and the clan formed units of the Mizo society. The Mizo code of ethics or dharma moved around Tulam Naina, an untranslatable term meaning on part of everyone to be hospitable, kind, unselfish, and helpful to others. Tulam Naina to Mizo stands for the compelling moral force which finds expression in self-sacrifice for the service of others. The old belief Pathian is still in use in term God till today. The Mizos have been enchanted to their newfound faith of Christianity with so much dedication and submission that their entire social life and thought process has been transformed and guided by the Christian church organization, and their sense of values has undergone drastic change. The Mizos area close-knit society with no class distinction and no discrimination on grounds of sex. 90% of them are cultivators and the village exists like a big family. Birth of a child, marriage in the village and death of a person in the village or a community feast arranged by the members of the village are important occasions in which the whole village is involved. Mizos practice what is known as jhum cultivation. They slash down the jungle, burn the trunks and leaves, and cultivate the land. All their other activities revolve around the jhum operations, and their festivals are also connected with such agricultural operations. Mimkut, which takes place in August to September, in the wake of harvesting of the maize crop, is celebrated with great gaiety and merriment expressed through singing, dancing, feasting, and drinking of homemade beer zoo dedicated to the memory of the dead relatives. The festival is underlined by a spirit of thanksgiving and remembrance for the dead. Year's first harvest is placed as an offering on a raised platform built to the memory of the dead. Polkut is harvest festival celebrated during December to January. Again, a mood of thanksgiving is evident because the difficult task of tilting and harvesting is over. Community feasts are organized and dances are performed. Mothers with their children sit on memorial platform and feed one another. This custom, which is also performed during Chapchar Kut, is known as Chong not. Drinking of zoo is also part of the festival. The 2 day is followed by a day of complete rest when no one goes out to work. Chapchar Kut, of all the Kuts of the Mizo, Chapchar Kut has emerged as the most popular and enjoyable, owing perhaps to more humorous stories of its origin and favorable time when the festival is observed spring. Chapchar Kut, the white flag flies high in the air, fluttering in the invigorating wild wind under the cloudless sky of spring. The sound of the beatings of the gongs reverberated on the surrounding hills. The crowd, young and old, from all walks of life, were pouring the in thousands. It is show time at the Assam Rifles Parade Ground, right in the heart of Aizawl. The day is the second Friday of March 2005, on which the most joyous festival of Mizos, Chapchar Kut, is celebrated every year. Standing in the ground were hundreds of Mizo damsels and energetic young men dressed in their colorful attires, all poised to perform the colorful Chirao dance, thus heralding the start of the festival for the day. Chapchar Kut literally means a festival held during the period when the bamboos and trees have been cut down are being awaited to dry and burn for Jhuming. During this brief layoff, big period of Jhuming, the Mizo ancestors could have all the time for themselves. They spent their leisure hunting, games, fishing, among others. The Chapchar Kut festival evolved sometime between 1415 to 1450 to 1600 AD when the Mizo forefathers inhabit Lentlang. In the olden days, the festival could last for days, and in the run up to the grand finale, they are well laid down steps to the steps to be followed. Everyone in the village has a role to play. Of course, the youth were most involved in every stage, and in the festival itself, designed to be a festival of joy. All disputes and differences that may be there in the community should be settled. Even altercation between married couples were a taboo during the celebration of the festival. Abundant supply of meat must be there, and home brewed liquor must be overflowing to keep their spirits high. They danced away all their cares and made merry night long. That sums up how Mizos celebrate Chapcharkut in the olden days. Modern version could have done away with liquor, which was once part and parcel of the festival. Even so, the present generation is not in any way lacking in keeping the spirit of the festival fever pitch high. In fact, the Mizo has been a dry state for years. The Young Mizo Association, largest NGO in the state, is combating drug and alcohol on a footing starting this year, and they have also very much a major player in organizing Chapchar Kut. But who says one needs a bottle of rum to be merry? The younger generation of the Mizos have invented for themselves enthralling music and more music to be drowned themselves in. This was evident as it always is wherever a dozen or so Mizo youths congregate in the Chapchar Kut festival. The crowd went berserk when the choicest of Mizo pop divas performed Mizo songs. Believe me, right from toddlers to policemen who were supposed to keep watch were practically dancing. The Chief Minister Zoram Thanga, in his very brief inaugural speech, says Chapcharkut has come to be a very important medium through which we could express to the world outside that Mizos all over the world remain united and that it shall remain so. No matter where in the world we live, to which ethnic tribes of the Mizos we belong to, and we should never allow economic, cultural, and religious differences to do us apart. True, Chapcharkut is the symbol that shall remain a living proof that blood is indeed thicker than water. Mizo delegates from Manipur, Meghalaya, and Tripura came to witness this festival this year, and people warmly welcomed them. When it comes to the time for chai, the last and the most hilarious dance, all the people joined in, standing in circles and swaying from side to side to the slow moving tune of Mizo songs of yesteryears. It was free for full. A few of the Western tourists and other domestic tourists ventured out to join the party. It was apparent that there was no cultural, religious, or nationality barrier among the waves of sea of people dancing. But then, where else in India, if not in the world, would you chance upon such likable and hospitable people other than in Mizoram? Justifiably, the most peaceful state in the country, be there on a second Friday of March next year to witness Chapchar Kut. Mizos are fast giving up their old customs and adapting to the new mode of life, which is generally influenced by the Western culture. Many of their present customs are mixtures of their old tradition and Western pattern of life. Music is a passion for the Mizos and young boys and girls take to the Western music avidly and with commendable skill. The fascinating hills and lakes of the Mizo land literally pulsate and resound with rhythms of the sonorous songs of the youth and the twang of guitars everywhere. The original garment of the Mizos is known as puan. Puan. They were used by men and women more or less in the same fashion. One has to see them to believe the intricate traditional designs woven by the Mizo women, born weavers who produce what can only be described as art on their looms. The Mizo have held on to certain patterns and mottos that have come down through the ages. These designs have become deep rooted in their tribal consciousness and has become part of the Mizo heritage. The unique value of Mizo Puan comes from the personal involvement of the weaver who with great labor weaves her dreams into each work and weft until every design has a story to tell. These traditional hand-woven apparels are of different shades and designs without exquisite play of color combination and intricate weaving patterns have been evolved. Some of the common clothing or puan are puanchei. It is by far the most common most colorful costume and is used by every Mizo lady. Puanchei, Puanchei, Puanchei and Kwarchei Gotherka. The traditional puan is worn round the waist. Originally it was men's puan, but now it is worn by men and women alike. Hamar Aam. Originally this was hand woven cloth of handspun cotton and indigo dye. Maram and Sin Sehna. No, it is a beautiful embroidered silk puan of the Maras. It is used by both men and women. The drum and the gong are two traditional musical instruments of the Mizos. The flute is another, though it is no longer much in use. There was another musical instrument which was made by inserting hollow reeds into gourds. Blowing through one reed produced a tune. That instrument has fallen completely in disuse. The usual Mizo drum, made of Hollywood reed trunk, covered with fine on either side, is about a foot in diameter and 2 feet in length. The gongs, which came in various sizes, mostly from Myanmar, are expensive brassware. Sometimes three gongs, each having a separate note, are beaten simultaneously to produce fine musical tunes. The gay and cheerful mood of the Mizos expressed itself through their love for music. Shakespeare called music the food of love and asked for the excess of it. If music be the food of love, play on, and give me excess of it, the Mizos would be happy to play on and offer the immortal poet the excess of their music. Every society has its own traditional music in every society, and in every society, folk music is as old as the age of that society. Some Indian cultures have very long musical histories, but Mizo culture does not have such history. Yet the origin of Mizo music is some mastery. It is therefore difficult to trace the origin and to arrange the chronological sequences of the heritage of Mizo music. Bahla. This is a chant or cry raised by the warriors when returning from a successful raid. Lado. Uh, this is a chant or cry raised by hunters when a successful hunting has taken place. Thyam Hala or Dwai Hala, invocation or incantation. The origin of Mizos. The origin of Mizos, like those of the many other tribes in northeastern India, is shrouded in mystery. The generally accepted uh, the generally accepted as part of a great Mongoloid wave of migration from China and later moved out to India to their present habitat. It is possible that Mizos came from Shinlung or Shinlungsan, located on the banks of the river Yanglung in China. Shinglung, they came from Shinglung on the banks of river Yalung in China. They first settled in the Shan state and moved to the Kabao Valley in Khamfat and then to the Chin Hills in the middle of the 16th century. The earliest Mizos who migrated to India were known as Kukis. The second batch of immigrants were called the New Kukis. The Lushais were the last of the Mizo tribes to migrate to India. The Mizo history in the 18th and 19th century is marked by many instances of tribal raids and retaliatory expeditions of security. Mizo Hills were formerly declared as part of British India by proclamation. In 1985, North and South Hills were united into Lushai Hills District in 1898 with Aizawl as its headquarters. The Assam correction, the process of the consolidated of the British administration, consolidation of the British administration in tribal dominated areas in Assam started in 1919 when Lushai Hills, along with some other hill districts, were declared backward tract under the Government of India Act. The tribal districts of Assam included Lushai Hills, were declared excluded area in 1935. It was during the British regime that the political awakening among the Mizos in Lusai Hills started taking place. Shape in the first political party, Mizo Common People Union, was formed on 9th April 1946. Party was later renamed as Mizo Union. As the day of independence drew nearer, the Constituent Assembly set up an advisory committee to deal with matters relating to the minorities and tribals. A subcommittee under the chairmanship of Gopinath Bordoloi was formed to advise the Constituent Assembly on the tribal affairs in the Northeast. The Mizo Union submitted a resolution of this subcommittee demanding inclusion of all Mizo inhabited areas adjacent to Lushai Hills. However, a new party called the United Mizo Federation came up to the demand that Lushai Hills join Burma after independence. Following the Bordoloi subcommittee, following the Bordoloi subcommittee's suggestion, a certain amount of autonomy was accepted by the government and enshrined in the sixth schedule of the constitution. The Lushai Hills Autonomous District Council came into being in 1952, followed by the formation of these bodies, led to the abolition of chieftainship in the Mizo society. The autonomy, however, met the aspirations of the Mizos only partially. Representatives of the District Council and the Mizo Union pleaded with the States Reorganization Commission (SRC) in 1954 for integrated the Mizo-dominated areas of Tripura and Manipur with the District Council in Assam. The tribal leaders in the northeast were laboriously unhappy with the State Reorganization Commission's recommendation. They met in Aizawl in 1955 and formed new political party Eastern India Union and raised demand for a separate state comprising of all hill districts of Assam. Mizo Union split and the breakaway faction joined the EITU. By the time the UMFO also joined the EITU, and then the understanding of the hill problems by the Chuliha ministry, the demand for a separate hill state by EITU was kept in abeyance. But folklore has an interesting tale of offer. Mizos go so goes the legend emerged from a large covering rock known as Chinlung. Two people of the Ralte clan, known for their loquaciousness, started talking noisily while coming out of the region. They made a great noise which led god called Pantheon by the Mizos to throw up his hand in disgust and say enough is enough. He felt too many people had already been allowed to step out, so closed the door with a rock. History often varies from legends, but the story of Mizos getting out into open from nether world through a rock opening is now part of the Mizo fable. Shinlung, however, is taken by some of the Chinese city of Shinlung, situated close to the Sino-Burmese border. The Mizos have songs and stories about the glory of the ancient Shinlung civilization, handed down from one generation to another powerful people. It is hard to tell how far the story is true. It is nevertheless possible that Mizos came from Shinlung or Shinlongsan, located on the banks of river Yalung in China. According to K.S. Latourette, there were political upheavals in China in 210 BC when the dynastic rule was abolished and the whole empire was brought under one administrative system. Rebellions broke out and chaos reigned throughout the Chinese state that the Mizos left China as part of those waves of migration. Whatever the case may have been, it seems probable that the Mizos moved from China to Burma and then to India under forces of circumstances. They first settled in the Shan state, after having overcome the resistance put up by the indigenous people. Then they changed settlement several times, moving from Shan to Kabau Valley to Khamfat to Chin Hills in Burma. They finally began to move across the river Tiao to India in the middle of 16th century. The Shans had already firmly settled in their state when Mizos came there from Shinlung around 5th century. The Shans did not welcome the new arrivals but failed to throw Mizos out. Mizos had lived happily in Shan state for about 300 years before they moved out on the Kabau Valley around 8th century. It was in the Kabau Valley that Mizos got an opportunity to have an unhindered interaction with the local Burmese. The two cultures met and the two tribes influenced each other in the spheres of clothing, customs, music, and sports. According to some, the Mizos learned the art of cultivation from the Burmese at Kabau. Many of their agricultural implements bore the prefix Kwal, which was the name given by Mizos to the Burmese. Khamfat, now in Myanmar, is known to have been the next Mizo settlement. The area claimed in by the Mizos as their earliest town was encircled by an earthen rampart and divided into several parts. The residence of the ruler stood at the central block called Nanyar Palace site. Construction of the town indicates the Mizos had already acquired considerable architecture skills. They are said to have planted a banyan tree at Nanyar before they left Comfort as a sign that town was made by them. The Mizos in the 14th century came to settle at Chin Hills on the Indo-Burmese border. They built villages and called them by their clan names such as Senpui, Sahmun, and Bochung. The hill and the difficult terrain of the Chin Hills stood in the way of building of another central township called like Khamfat. The villages were scattered so unsystematically that it was not possible for the various Mizo clans to keep in touch with one another. In 1959, Mizo Hills was devastated by the Great Famine known in Mizo history as Motam Famine. The cause of the famine was attributed to flowering of bamboos, which consequently resulted in rat population boom in large numbers. After eating bamboo seeds, the rat turned towards crops and infested the huts and houses and became a plague to the villages. The havoc created by the rats was terrible, and very little of the grain was harvested. For sustenance, many Mizos had to collect roots and leaves from the jungles. Others moved out to faraway places. Edible roots and leaves from the jungles Others moved out to faraway places, where considerable number died of starvation. In this hour of darkness, many welfare organizations tried their best to help the starving villagers to facilitate supplies to the removed villages. Earlier in 1955, Mizo Cultural Society was formed in 1955 and Lal Denga was its secretary. In March 1960, the name of the Mizo Cultural Society was changed to Motam Front. During the famine of 1959-60, this society took lead in demanding relief and managed to attract the attention of all sections of the people. In September 1960, society adopted the name of Mizo National Famine Front. The MNFF gained considerable popularity as a large number of Mizo youth assisted in transporting rice and other essential commodities to interior villages. The Mizo National Famine Front dropped the word famine, and the new political organization Mizo National Front was born in 1961 under the leadership of Lal Denga with a specified goal of achieving sovereign independence of the Greater Mizoram. Large-scale disturbances broke out on 28 February 1966. Government installations at Aizawl, Lunglei, Chongte, Chimlung, and other places simultaneously. While the MNF took to violence to secure its goal of establishing a sovereign land, other political forces in the hills were striving for a separate state. The search for a political solution to the problems facing the hill regions in Assam continued. The Mizo National Front was outlawed in 1967. The demand for statehood was gained fresh momentum. A Mizo District Council delegation, which met Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, demanded a full-fledged state for the Mizos. The Union government, in its own, offered the proposal of turning the Mizo Hills into the Union Territory in 1971. Mizo leaders were ready to accept the offer into the Mizo leaders were on condition that states of UTs would be upgraded to statehood sooner rather than later. The UT of Mizoram came into being on January 21, 1972. Mizoram gets two seats in parliament, one each in the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. Rajiv Gandhi's assumption of power following his mother's death signaled the beginning of a new era in Indian politics. Lal Denga met the Prime Minister in 1985. Some of the contentious issues which could not be resolved during previous talks referred by him for his advice. All trends indicated that neither the center nor the MNF would pass up the opportunity that now presented itself to have a full, lenient, and flexible. New Delhi felt that Mizo problem has been dragging on for a long time, while MNF was convicted that bidding farewell to arms to live as respectable Indian citizens was the only way of achieving peace and development. Statehood was a prerequisite to implementing of the accords signed between MNF and the Union government on June 30, 1986. The document was signed by Lal Denga on behalf of MNF and the Union Home Secretary R.D. Pradhan on behalf of the government. Lal Khama, Chief Secretary of Mizoram, too signed the agreement. The MNF volunteers came out of their hiding and surrendered arms to makeshift bamboo huts for the purpose at Parwa and Marpara. The total of 614 activists gave themselves up in less than 2 weeks in July. Large quantities of small and big firearms, including LMGs and rifles, were received from them. While the MNF kept its part of the bargain, Centre initiated efforts to raise the status of Mizoram to full-fledged state. Constitutional Amendment Bill and other to confer statehood was passed on August 5, 1986. Formalization of Mizoram state took place on 20th February 1987. Chief Secretary Lal Khama read out the proclamation of statehood at the public meeting organized at Aizaul's parade ground. Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi flew into Aizaul to inaugurate the new state. Hiteshwar Saikia was appointed as the governor of Mizoram. There are quite a number of places in Mizoram which may be described as a must-see for tourist sports. Anyone wishing to see a little more than conventional tourist spots. Blue Mountain, the highest peak in Mizoram, 2157 meters. Blue Phuong Phui, situated in Chimtuipui district over the river Koldin or Chimtuipui. Pujking Cave, the largest cave in Mizoram, Pujking village near Marpara, is in the district of Aizawl, Mamit. Legend has it that the cave was carved out of the hills with help of only hairpin by a very strong man called Mual Zawata. In the Mizo language, Puk means a cave situated near the Mamte village over 100 kilometers from Lunglei town. The Milo Park, which is the largest cave, was found many years ago to contain heaps of human skeleton. Lamsial Puk. An engraved image of Buddha with those of dancing girls on either side was found in Mulchang village about 50 kilometers from Lunglei town. Although Christianity brought a total transformation in Mizo lifestyle, the efforts of missionaries, so it seems, were not direct at changing the basic customs of the Mizo society, presumably because they saw nothing much wrong with them. Customs and traditions which they found meaningless and harmful were abolished by persistent preaching. Thus, tea replaced zoo as popular drink among the Mizos. Book has been replaced by modern education. Animal sacrifices on ceremonial occasions, which were once an integral part of the Mizo religious system, are now considered anathema. The Mizos are not allowed alone in putting a price on the bride. This custom is prevalent in the few other Indian communities as well. When a Mizo boy approaches his fiance's parents for permission to get married, the first thing he has to do is to settle the bride price. If the price, among other things demanded by him, is acceptable to the parents, the boy and the girl are allowed to get married. Thus, the settlement of bride price to be paid by the bridegroom is an essential prerequisite to the meso marriage. It so generally happens that part of the bride price which may be paid on the eve of the wedding, while the part of the bride price called tudfa is held back over the years as sort of security paying of debts fall on the next generation. In case of the death of the husband, his son is obliged to pay the bride price. The principal bride price is known as manpui, the rate at which 80 per unit. Besides, there are subsidiary bride prices like sum maroi rupees 20 and sum fang. These prices are to be paid to the bride's father or brother. Pusum, the rate at which varies 4 to 10, is payable to the nearest relation on the side of bride's mother, who most often than not turns out to be maternal uncle of the bride. The Mizo marriage is preceded by courtship and engagement. Boy and girl are allowed to mix freely during the engagement period, but an engagement may be broken off midway if the couple fails to get on with each other. Mizo people have a number of dances which are accompanied with musical instruments like gong and drum. Khulam means dance of the guest. It is performed in a ceremony called Kwang Chai. Cherao is a very old traditional dance of the Mizos. Then Chailam is a popular dance performed on the occasion of Chap Char Kut. Chuang Lai Zan is a popular folk dance of one of the Mizo communities. Tlang Tlanglam is performed through the length and breadth of the state using music of Puma Jai. There have been several variations of the dance. So that's all for today. See you in the next one.